Okay, we're calling to order the regular session. School board meeting for Wednesday, May 9th, 2018. Approval and amendment of meeting agenda items.
Just an amendment for consent agenda. So I move to approve the meeting agenda for May 9th, 2018 with amendment to item 11.1.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda items with the amendment to item 11.1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of April 2018 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2018 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Correspondence.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Public comment. Okay, moving on to reports.
Okay, Mrs. Warner is not here this evening, so I'm picking up the slack on that. So we had the science fair, I believe it was on April 19th, correct? And I was out of town, so unfortunately I didn't, this is the first year in many years I didn't get to be at the science fair. But it's always just a stellar event. These kids do some fantastic experiments. The presentations in Haiti Hey Jim, Haiti Hey Jim again, right? Very good. Are just, first rate, and it's always a pleasure to invite them here to present some of their projects to you. So anyway, Ms. Hutchinson, you want to lead into it with anything else?
No, I just want to introduce the 6th grade students and commend them for the hard work they've done. We have Quincy Ludwig, Eli Rucker, Corbin Start, and Brandon Marcus, and they had some great projects, and they were our winners. They were 4 of the 7 winners that we had on May 2nd was our science fair. So they're here to kind of give a brief presentation of what they did. So,
Who wants to go first?
Brandon, jump in there. You like to talk.
Don't hide behind the board.
Right there's good.
Do you want to put it right
Kind
there?
of,
Sure, alright.
kind of the side of the room, yeah. There.
Always
Yeah,
gonna be
so-
7 layers.
Yes. So both 6th grade classes and Union comes into town to do science fair projects. They work on it for weeks and weeks, and the parents are involved. The parents really support the kids in doing the investigation part. Really, all that they do in class is typing, but all of the collection of data and the research part of it's done at home with the support of their parents. So, Brandon?
So, my science fair question was, do western thatching ants use pheromones as attractant signals or repellent signals, or both? So, my hypothesis was that if the western thatching ant uses pheromones for communication, then the ants will use pheromones to communicate both positive and negative signals for food locations. So, how I did this project was I had to find out what food the ants liked. So I got sugar water, I got lettuce, I got meat, and I got cracker. And I just watched them and watched their activity, and I studied which one they liked the most, and I found out that they liked the sugar water the most. So that's the food that I used. So then next I had to make 2 Ys out of cardboard, and then I had to put paper over the top just so you could see the ants better, and they would produce their pheromones like on paper, and it'd be more easier to see. So, and then I put the Ys next to the nest in the greenhouse, and just waited for the ants to crawl up and just study both trails and find the food and find the non-food. And then I started collecting data, and I sat in the greenhouse for 45 minutes doing a tally on both Ys. and I found out that ants do produce a pheromone that's a positive pheromone, which is like, go here, there's food, don't go here, go here. And I do not think they produce a do not go here pheromone, because on Y1, 98 ants went to the side with food, so I think they follow the path that said go here, there's food. And on Y1 it also said that 56 went to negative, so I do not think they produce a pheromone that says do not go here because 56 were there. And on Y2, 75 went to the sugar water side, so I think the same thing. It did produce a pheromone that said go here, there's food. And on Y2, 56 went to the negative side. So my conclusion was that they do produce a positive food pheromone that says go here, there's food, but I do not think they produce a pheromone that says do not go here, because 56 went to, on both Ys, went to the side without food. And my hypothesis was partly correct, because I thought that the western thatching ant would produce a positive and negative pheromone, but my results show that the western thatching ant only produces a positive pheromone.
Good job, Brandon.
Thank you.
You got ants everywhere.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, what made you think of the ants? Like, where did the ants come from?
We just had like a infest of ants in our greenhouse.
Yeah.
Why not do something with them?
But I love how that's science inquiry, because true inquiry is asking questions about the world around you and then formulating a scientific question. So I think that you just captured the whole thing just perfectly. So good job.
Good job.
Next one?
Sure.
Coming.
I had to do it. Go ahead. You're all right. You gonna shoot me with anything? Just curious.
Most thing I have, most everything I have right here. I can put it in.
So, my question was,
I got the set.
how does trailer weight distribution affect towing performance? As in, you spread out these washers, like maybe 6 here, 6 here, 6 here, 6 here, 6 here, 15 here, 15 here, that time. But my hypothesis was that the trailer would ride the best with the weight equally divided between the front of the trailer and above the axle. And since it connects like that, I thought since I have 30 washers, that 15 here and 15 here would be that. But my research, my results turned out that the way you see it right here is the best way to have it. All above the axle, or as close as you can get them to them, with a slight tongue weight from this right up here, the tongue. And this is 1677. My research into this was pretty much, I was wondering what to do, and I watched some YouTube videos to see what I wanted to do, and I found a trailer weight distribution one. In their test, they used a tow vehicle with a trailer that was attached to a string on a running treadmill. But I thought that that video might be incorrect, showing stuff wrong, because it's pretty much a tow vehicle towing another tow vehicle with the It's a trailer towing a trailer with pretty much a tow vehicle that never wavers, ever. But I was wondering if you made it self-powered, if it would change the results. So I made it line out about 10 foot and tested how far it was off that line. And the results were, and this is averages of 4 tests, for my home built rear wheel with rear wheel drive, and this is my home built, it was 77.87 for test 1, which was 15.15. My second test was 15.15 like this, and it had no results because it just never made it to the line. My third test was the one you see here, and it had 14.75, which wasn't the best that this one had done, but the best score out of all of these was during test 3 and test 7, and in test 7 I had 15 here, 15 here, just like my hypothesis. But it didn't have the other ones. It was just a straight 2, since the motor on this thing, it'll still go when it's in your hand, but if it's on the ground, it doesn't go anymore. It tore up the gears. But pretty much my conclusion on this project was that it is important to have the proper distribution of weight on a trailer, but it is also important to have a heavier tow vehicle. My RC car, that was also included in the test, was much heavier than the home-built car I made, which was about the same weight as the trailer. The heavier RC car was affected much less than the lighter home-built car. By having a tow vehicle that is heavier than the load gives some room for a poorly loaded trailer. My original tests were in agreement to my hypothesis, but the bonus test really showed the importance of a properly loaded trailer. For the bonus test, and just for fun, I loaded the trailer weights as far back as I possibly could and drove it around the gym behind the RC car. It was wobbling and made it hard to control. Next I loaded them all in the middle, and the RC car ran very well, almost like there was no trailer. That was until I slammed on the brakes, causing it to jackknife. I then loaded the weight to the front of the trailer, and it only had slight turning problems because the tires were slightly off the ground. And that's pretty much mine.
Good job, Corbin.
Good job.
Nice work.
So,
Yeah.
was the YouTube video wrong or right?
I don't really know.
No.
Good job, Corbin.
It was on the treadmill, so I couldn't really record it up. So, well, it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 10-foot long treadmill. I mean, you could put a motor pulling it in with a twine or something, but
What you don't see in Corbett's project is his car has front wheel drive,
And
rear
back wheel
wheel,
drive.
rear wheel drive. Does it have all wheel drive, Corbin?
no.
No.
This is just an axle back here, and this is, well,
That is completely fabricated from like a DeWalt hand battery drill. So,
So you just reverse the
this is 20
polarity on the
volts, this is
battery.
9 volts. That might be why we wrote it up.
oh,
So Corbin, are you just reversing the polarity off the battery?
Yeah,
to get
that's-
the motor to rotate in the other
You
direction?
just spin these red things and
Okay.
switch them, and it's
and Corbin makes you wonder, why am I teaching science?
Nice job.
Very good job.
Alright, so my scientific question was, do generic vacuum insulated stainless steel water bottles work the same as popular brands that are more expensive? And my hypothesis was that the popular brands would keep cold and warm water the longest because they're more expensive, and I think they'd have better quality. And so I took 3 water bottles. They're made out of the same technology, just different prices. And I took the 50/50 water bottle, the mirror, which is the generic, and the hydro flask. And I wanted to do both hot water and cold water, and I did them both for 12 hours and 24 hours. And for the cold water, I did have to put ice cubes in the water, just not in the water bottle. I put it in a 5-gallon bucket, put the ice cubes in there, let it sit for 30 minutes, and then put the cold water into the water bottles. And so I then wanted to go to my research just to make sure how everything was built, and they all have small metal discs in the insulation that help it keep the cold and warm water longer. And some of them will slip, and if they do, it's still insulated. It just means it's out of place. And in the lid, there's a rubber gasket that will seal the lid. And both of them are made out of stainless steel. And the creators of the Hydro Flask were actually Travis Rossback and Cindy Morse. And they were still boyfriend, or they got married, and they were at the beach. And they got divorced later on, and then Cindy Morse made the 50/50, used the same technology. And the mirror, I couldn't really find out who made it, but I do know that it's the same as the Hydro Flask and the 50/50. But the mirror is the only cheapest one because it's made in China. And so my table right here shows the 50/50 in the Hydro Flask and mirror. And this is the hot water cold hour test. And after 0 hours, which we started out was 210 degrees. And I wanted to check every half of that, so since it was 12, I checked every 6 hours. And so for 50/50 and the Hydro Flask and the mirror, they were all pretty close. They're only about maybe 1 to 2 degrees off. And that's the same for the hot water 24-hour test. It was the same, except for the temperature I started at was 205 degrees Fahrenheit, and I actually went for 24 hours, so I checked it every 12 hours. And then I did the same for the cold water test, and at the 12 hours I started at 41.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and they all, again, stayed pretty close, only differing by about 1 degree. And the same for the cold water 24-hour test. I started with, the starting temperature was only 33.1 degrees Fahrenheit, and they still were only about 1 degree Fahrenheit off. And over here is the graphs of how well they did. And I noticed that they first either drop temperature or gain temperature in the first either 12 to 6 hours, and then after that they kind of deadline. And so my conclusion was that the mirror water bottle did the best for the hot water, both 12 hours and 24 hours. And the Hydro Flask did the best for the both of them, both cold water tests. And the 50/50, it wasn't really a leading brand in my tests. It was kind of either in the bottom or in between them.
They were
Which
all
one's the
pretty
cheapest?
close,
Yeah,
real close in what they would do.
yeah. I don't know which question.
Which one was the cheapest?
So the cheapest was the mirror because it was the generic. But I then realized that they're both the same technology, so it would be okay if you bought the cheaper one if it's built with the same technology, because it'll probably work just about the same.
The cheaper one's from China?
Huh?
The cheaper one is from China?
Yeah.
What's the considerable difference? I think the Hydro Flask like 50. What's the low-end bottle cost?
So the mirror
So the mirror my mom bought on Amazon, it was about $10 to $20. And the 50-50, it's like 30 to 40, and the Hydro Flask would be like 40 to, yeah.
Nice.
Good work, Eli.
I love this project because we were actually having conversations at the lunchroom table over this project as everybody sets their hydro flasks on it. And we said, you don't have to buy the hydro flask.
But it's got the neat face on it.
So,
Or it has the brightest color or whatever it is, yeah. So we decided to do this because we were at Costco, we're walking through and they're like 2 40-ounce Hydro Flask looking bottles for $25. I'm like, I just spent 40 on my 50-50 bottle. I could have got 2 here, and then she's like, well, they're not as good because they're not Hydro Flask, but they're not 50-50. And we're like,
Hey,
sounds like
but
a
I
good
came
science
up with this
project.
project.
But your brother proved you wrong.
You did, you did, which he's good at.
it was a great project, Eli.
Good project, Eli.
Good work.
Good job, Eli.
Good job.
Okay, so I'm Quincy, and my question was, what are the dirtiest areas that students get exposed to during a day of school? And so I swabbed different areas in the school to see which ones were the dirtiest, and my hypothesis was that I thought the girls' bathroom toilet flusher would be the dirtiest, but my results showed that the girls' bathroom actually was the least dirtiest, and the school registration pen had the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, if you go in the boys' bathroom.
I asked that question, she said, nope, my dad did.
So, the second dirtiest was a teacher's mouse. The third dirtiest was the teacher's lounge table. The fourth dirtiest was a student's unwashed hands. The fifth dirtiest was a student's desk. The sixth dirtiest was the main entrance door. The seventh dirtiest was the boys' bathroom. The eighth dirtiest was the water fountain handle. The girls' bathroom. And then I had a controlled. And I also did a little experiment over here, where, so I tested to see if hand sanitizer would work against this bacteria, and that was what it did.
Made it worse?
No,
No, it's better.
yeah, it killed it all.
Oh. I
Not
thought for
touching
sure the
that
water
pen.
fountain was gonna be in the top 3.
Yeah,
Did you test the button? Is that what you did? Did you swap the button?
yeah, I saw that.
You should have swabbed the mouthpiece.
You don't put your mouth on it.
I know. I'm supposed to put it on. I've never done it.
I've seen people just go directly on it.
So what I'm seeing is the common theme is the dirtiest places are where the adults are.
Adults are, yes.
Yeah.
Sure looks like it.
Alternatively, you could interpret it as your janitor's, where he's cleaning, is doing an outstanding job and probably
Yeah.
deserves a little pay raise.
Did you see the look on
Yeah,
your face?
smile, Jared, smile,
Hey.
Jared.
These are data of which you can make an informed decision, that's all.
Now is not the time to talk about pay.
It was great though because there were several parents that checked their students out early on Wednesday, early release, and they have to go to the office and use the flower pen to check their students out. And they want to pick the pen out. It was very interesting results.
Good job, Chris.
Good job.
Good job.
Good project.
All of them are good, very good.
Very good. I'm gonna give a round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Hutchison.
Thank you, and
Good
thank you
project.
parents, and thank you lady and gents for sharing those. Make sure you put them in your record books. They are a great thing to put in your 4-H record books. I'm gonna excuse you, you don't have to stay here if you don't want to.
For the whole meeting?
No, you don't. I'm just gonna,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, parents, too. Good.
Several, we had 6 community members that come in.
Yeah, because it's baseball. Yeah, we did ours that I might have turned off. Come in. Ours was expensive.
I don't remember a project.
It was broken. What do you expect me to do with the broken one?
I did mine on white kept cheese. Not as exciting.
Bye, Andrew.
All right, folks, I'm not staying either, so,
Bye, Sandy. Thank
thank you, Sam.
I don't know where to.
Don't you want?
Bryce is a little disappointed that we went to
Don't make the joke. Spell it.
Senior slide.
2 full weeks left,
Oh my God.
which means 2 more Mondays.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
All right, 8.2, ASB report.
Well, I put my name on there, but the guy that gets credit is Bryce Crumride, so Bryce, go for it.
Okay. On April 19th, we had class meetings where the juniors and seniors watched a presentation from KCC, and the sophomores and freshmen were informed about doing class fundraisers and student council elections, which have been in full swing for a week now. There are 19 applicants for the next school year, which Mrs. Mize and I are very happy about. They have been doing interviews this week and will start campaigning next week. Ag classes and FFA have been busy this past month or so, taking trips for all sorts of competitions and field trips. On April 20th, the Honor Society hosted a barn dance at the New Idaho Grange that provided good fun for students and was well received. On May 1st, the Senior Mothers Luncheon was hosted in the DMS Auditorium. On May 4th, around 50 juniors and seniors traveled to Ashland to watch Sense and Sensibility at the Shakespeare Festival. May 5th was a very busy day. We had home baseball and softball doubleheaders and held senior recognition for all spring sports on the softball field. Later that night was prom, which was Gatsby themed. Student council members who planned prom did a great job with decorations, food, pictures, and hiring a DJ that people enjoyed. As we are now a month away from summer vacation, we are working to finalize our new student council and continue keeping the school looking nice by updating bulletin boards. The seniors have luncheons and brunches coming up with local groups like Rotary, AAUW, and Seroptimus soon as well. This week, golf and track have districts, and baseball and softball playoffs will begin next week. This week is Certified Staff Appreciation, and the leadership students have been working hard to show how important they are. So far, they have gotten lemonades, packs of gum, and popcorn.
And donuts.
Very
And
busy.
flowers today.
Oh, nice.
Donuts.
And those are the kids tomorrow.
Well, you started Lakeview High School down in middle school, you just want to continue it from there?
Want me to go there?
Yes.
Bryce and I had to coordinate.
Yeah.
So May 15th, the incoming 7th graders, so this group of 6th graders are coming for orientation. Bobby's gonna do pre-physicals, will take place at that time for those students. The leadership students are gonna tour the students for like a tour of all the buildings in the schools and go to classrooms and important places like office and cafeteria, counseling office. The student council, it sounds like, are they gonna do their presentations and vote for their, the middle school student council, is that what?
I don't I don't know what middle school.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like that, what I saw, it kind of sounded like maybe, some years they do it in the fall, it sounds like they're gonna, do their speeches and do some presentations on student council for middle school. Then they'll get to, over at the middle school building, there's some lockers over there that no students are in, and so they'll get to practice combinations, that's the biggest, worry and concern for incoming students. You know, are they gonna be able to open their locker, get to class on time, and so they'll practice that. The cafeteria staff wants to visit with them on, you know, how you go through the line and give your number and just kind of the rules and how you make the cafeteria work for you as a student. Then Mr. Cahill, Ms. Harris, and Mr. Louie are gonna meet back with them all and answer any questions that they have. So it's gonna be a question and answer time for them. Ms. Harris is going down tomorrow, or Friday I guess it is, to do the forecasting, to look at what classes the students would like to take in middle school for electives. Then our Step Up program is putting out applications for a summer work crew that Jeff Samples will run. Jeff and I'll take in the applications and do an interview process with those students the week of May 21st. DMS and LHS, I think the whole district started taking state math tests this week. The English and writing, the reading, all of that is been completed. So this is kind of that last leg for our state testing in math. And then as Bryce mentioned, seniors are attending a lot of celebrations. This community does a great celebration for our graduates, and it's just a fun time for them, but the community enjoys it as well. The seniors have a full calendar. All is moving forward towards graduation, which is not very long. You guys don't have much time left.
Who's counting?
I think they are. I think they tell
Oh
me
yeah, I'm
when
in
I
charge
go
of the
to
countdown.
As Bryce mentioned, track is going to districts. Districts is Friday, Saturday at Illinois Valley. Is that right, Mr.
Yes.
Case?
Correct.
Okay. Girls softball will play now on May 23rd, so they go straight to a playoff game. Boys varsity baseball, sounds like they were done last night. This is not my strength right here, but it sounds like that depending on what some other teams do, there could still be a possibility. Is that right, Ms. Leslie? But it's pretty slim, it sounds like. And then the JV boys have a game on Monday, and I wasn't sure where that was at. Klamath Falls. Okay. You guys have any questions?
So Bryce, when's your successor being chosen?
This Friday. Yes.
Or
Actually, well,
successor
maybe
for
next
you?
week. I don't know, it's been kind of weird because Miss Mize is helping me with interviews, so it's kind of surreal. It's
Yeah.
weird. But yeah.
And you've had this for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's going to be someone that's already in our leadership class, which is good. So, happy for them.
The other thing that'll be an interesting issue is we have at least one and maybe 3 high school rodeo kids that will be at high school finals week.
We're already dealing with that. So if yours is one of them, come see us.
He's on the bubble.
Okay.
As of right now today, yes.
I know one parent we've already worked
But
with on
he's
that.
got, and the other one will be graduated by then, so it'll just be 2.
That's exciting. That's really nice.
Yeah, for a freshman, it's really good.
That's good, yeah.
We'll see.
So Bryce, will you, is this it? Is this your last school work report?
Miss Mize thought I might have one more. I don't know. We'll see.
You don't have to come back after you've graduated, do you?
I hope not, but we'll see.
You had a report on graduation.
Yeah. Went well. No one's diploma was empty. Something when they opened it. Yeah.
Well, if not, congratulations and
Thank you.
thanks for all your service last 2 years. Something very honorable to be part of. So.
Thank you.
Great job, Bryce.
Where are you headed?
I'm going to Arizona State.
Jeez.
Yeah, fun in the sun.
Is that in Tempe?
Yeah.
Paint in the desert.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot when I
Hot
first
is
get
it
there,
there
but it'll be
today?
nice.
When you start, is it August?
Yeah, I'll leave like the first week in August.
Mm.
So not much summer, but
You go for the monsoon.
I won't like the 100-degree days, but I'll like the 70-degree days in December probably.
100-degree days are nothing, it's the 114 degrees.
Well, and also it's like a dry heat like it is here, which we're used to, but if it's humid in 100,
It's not.
It's just hot when it's 115. There's
It's
no
100 at night.
yeah.
Okay, I've got the elementary report. This is where emailed me the report. Teacher appreciation week includes luncheons, candy bar bouquets, and other treats to show appreciation to our teachers. Lots of field trips coming up, including the 6th grade field trip, a trip to the Sunstone Mines, outdoor school at Cottonwood, East Lake Park for Migratory Bird Day, fishing at Open Chain Reservoir, and visiting a dairy in Klamath, just to name a few. Year-end awards assembly for all elementary schools is scheduled on June 7th. Please see the school calendar on the website for all activities that are occurring. Enrollment for all the elementaries, all of them, all three of them combined at this point in time is 416 students with some fluctuation back and forth. Some of our teachers went to the positive behavior intervention symposium up in RTI training in April in Bend. And Mrs. Werner says, I think that's about it. So that's the elementary report. It's a busy time of year for the elementary.
But Sunstone sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, they all sound like fun.
been up
That
there
one
once,
sounds
but
like
it's
fun.
pretty interesting. Lots and lots of digging out there in the budget.
Kids love to do
Was that intervention for those that have positive behavior or positive intervention for those?
Positive behavior intervention. It's a fair question.
Okay. Finance report.
Okay, so not a lot to report for March, that's exciting. We didn't receive any taxes, it was right on the cuff of the 1st, and so it didn't end up in our account till the 1st of April. So you will see that there was no tax turnover sent to us. Our interest keeps climbing with our LGIP, so that's kind of a refreshing situation there. And of course, state school fund. Then we did receive our monthly, not annually, monthly, our counselor from the ESD, and that's just straight counselor money. Two counselors at halftime each is how we bill that out. So, and our revenue was $384,000 in the month of March. So quite a bit below what we had anticipated, but that has a lot to do with taxes and tuition. Some of that gets spread out a little bit, but we did get a big chunk in January of that tuition, so that's most of it. Moving on to expenditures. In the month of March, our actual payroll was less, $570,000, was less than what we projected. However, our payables was a little bit higher, but with that, we have quite a few grants that are being run through the general fund. We have an outdoor school grant that pertains to the 5th and 6th graders. So the 6th graders with the 6th grade field trip, they're trying to prepay all of their stops. So that's a lot of that stuff because we've actually been pretty frugal with our dollars. So in April, May, the outdoor school probably won't see that till June, just because I got a lump sum bill that at the end. So a lot of that is those kinds of grant monies that they received. Then there was some PBIS training that we sent people on that was actually in April, but pay that in March. And so that gets reimbursed, some of those things get reimbursed from the ESD as well. So I'm not really concerned about the overage, because I know it's probably going to balance out April, May, and maybe into June. So we spent $651,000, a little bit higher than the $646 that we anticipated. At the end of the day, our ending fund balance at the end of March was $2,663,000. We're still going to be a little bit variance of $119,000 than we anticipated, but again, that has a lot to do with the ending fund balance that we projected versus what we actually had. And then at the end, I'm still kind of, thinking that at the end of June, at June 30th, we're probably gonna end up around almost to $1,990,000, but we'll see how that, you never know what comes up, seems like. So that'll be in better shape than the $765,000 that we started out with.
So what is the preferred ending fund balance for our district?
I would like to keep it anywhere between $1 million and $1.2 million, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
So if we're around $1 million this year, we have a little, we can try to bring that up a little bit more,
Yeah.
would be good.
And that would be excellent, actually.
Going into the budget.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of that last year was, you know, we didn't get, some title grants. We anticipated getting more than what we actually got, so then we actually had to do a transfer for a lot of those funds, which we'll still have to do transfers, but I think we're ahead of it in this budget cycle for 17-18. Okay, any other questions?
Okay. All right.
You're good. What's that?
You're up next.
Facility grants update.
I'd be polite, Andy. Okay.
I'm ready for it.
All right, so we have a lot of things happening and they're happening all at once. So I tried to make notes as best as I could here. So first and foremost, the 80 Hay asphalt playground, which we approved that contract at the last board meeting, I believe, or the time before. So to firm up some dates, June 11th and 12th, which there will be no students here, they're gonna do the tear out. So that is gonna be actually a donation by the county. Been in contact with Kevin, he is more than willing to come in and pull out the old asphalt that's all the way around the front, all the way around the back, get rid of that and off dump it someplace else. So that's a great donation. In fact, Mrs. Warner or myself need to be in front of the commissioners next Tuesday to reconfirm that, because it's been a while since, you know, just to refresh their memory that that's happening. They'd already approved it. Just kind of gonna give them an update. The next thing that will happen within that week is there's some concrete that needs to be poured in front of 80 Hay that's in that circular deal there. They're gonna do some extra pouring of some concrete there.
The curbs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, so, so we're in line to do that, prior to the asphalt coming in. And we have, Rocky Mountain lined out. They've got June 18th through the 29th to complete the full deal, which I don't think it'll take them that long. I'm sure by the time they get in there, they'll have it done pretty quickly. So our project should be completed by 6:30. So we'll be within this fiscal year and have that cleaned up and off our plates. So that's the deal there.
And where was Rocky Mountain down?
Clint. So then another thing that's happening is the Fremont Reading Garden. We had some grant monies from the Union garden grant that spilled into the Fremont Reading Garden. So we did a lot of pre-purchases before we ran out of the grant monies, and then so now they're able to finally get in there and put in some fencing, and gravel's been delivered, dug some holes. We had a slight snafu. They right before Joe left to go branding all week to take some vacation time, he may or may not have bumped the water line. So Rob's been digging that up and fixing that for him. So that got derailed a little bit this week as far as progress to fix that water line before we finish putting fence in. And so that should be completed, you know, by the 6:30 our fiscal year. Probably way sooner than that, however, by then. So that will be nice to have that cleaned up. The scoreboard for the soccer field. So the original engineering deal that we had for that had us using a 30-inch auger. We cannot find a 30-inch auger anywhere. So we had to have it re-engineered for a 24-inch auger, which is the biggest that we could find that we could get rented or borrowed or whatever. We just got the engineering back from Anderson again, because I have to submit it for the building permit to get that. So that it has been submitted. We'll just wait on the county to issue us our permit. That'll be in-house, get that taken care of. Those guys can put that up. The wiring has to be done by Wynema, which is out of Klamath, which they've already agreed to do that. And so that should take care of the scoreboard piece of the soccer field. And then as far as the soccer field is concerned, that is complete. We're still working on the turf, if you will, the grass out there. It's pretty spotty, pretty holy. So they're doing everything they can to fertilize, So are we aerate. to the point now that we're regulation out there, size-wise? It's You just that are.
I
the ground
believe
is,
we are, yeah, we are.
the
right
ground is the only thing
ground
that's
is
the
the
issue as far as lumpy and
now. It's like the middle of it just seems to be rock solid.
so they're doing everything they can, kind of working with
Has the
Basin Fertilizer to get some good fertilizer over here.
in Klamath been over?
Which
to-
guy?
The guy that sold us all the sod. Have we had that
But
Fleming
it's
guy
not
come
the,
back?
it's not the sod that's the issue.
Right, but
It's
he
the
might have a,
ground underneath.
he might have some good guidance as to.
We've actually gotten a hold of Basin Fertilizer, and they've been helping us. It's not gonna be an overnight cure, and he told us that. It's gonna take time to get that built back up in there. It's the dirt that was hauled in here. It wasn't the greatest dirt. And plus too, the dirt that's original there isn't the best either. So the dirt is the biggest key in that, but we've been working with Basin Fertilizer the last couple of years, tweaking the fertilizer and aerating and, doing everything we can, minimizing water, maximizing water. It's just gonna take a couple of years to get that really to reel in, essentially. And they're doing a great job. Maintenance is really doing a good job of staying on top of it out there, as best we can. Let's see.
Did we have to pay for the engineering, the re-engineering?
On the soccer scoreboard, no, we didn't, and I was reminded of that. That's why it took him so long, was it was a freebie. I said, okay, but I needed it 3 days ago. So he did finally get it to me, and so he said it was a freebie. I haven't seen any billing or anything, so I think we're okay on that one. And unfortunately, we had to send it, back for the holes to be not 30 inches, which is really large holes.
Yeah.
24 inches is very large also.
I didn't think to do it that way to begin with.
I just was curious how tall the scoreboard is, if it's
You
up
know
in the
the-
holes.
Well, it's not really overly tall, but it's a heavy scoreboard. The one that they picked out, the weight of it
Metal.
is part of the problem. And we have metal beams to put it up, and we tried to switch it around to where we could get the poles, like the
Telephone
power
poles.
poles, the power poles that SVD put in here. And he just would not engineer it to that. So we were stuck with the big, huge
Like rooters.
beams out here. And we got him down to 24-inch auger. So we have to do that, but we still have to cement it in, and it's a production. It's
Well,
really,
it's probably a pretty big sign.
it is, and the
Yeah.
weight of it
And the
is
wind-
part of the
wind
problem,
shear.
and the
Yeah.
wind will be a problem with it out there too, so,
It's a big item, it needs a lot of support underneath to hold it up.
and it's probably valid. It feels like it's overkill as far as the sturdiness of it, but maybe not. Maybe we're right on there, so. Let's see, okay, any other questions? Okay. So moving on to the CTE revitalization. So April 27th, I had a project manager, applications were due, or bids were due. We received one. We kind of sat down with ODE, who was here the 1st of May. Re-looked at some things, decided to cancel the project manager as we think we can manage this one in-house. My concern was that we have a lot of projects going, and if we could really actually get it managed within house. We decided that we could. My maintenance guys are pretty good about feeling confident with that. The next thing that we're doing is rewriting a new RFP to solicit for the electrical side and the HVAC side to redo that ventilation. The electrical is going to have to kind of mash up with the HVAC as far as electrical, along with the welding booths that are going to go in. Because you guys already know that we can run 1 or 2 welding at this point. And so the feed into that needs to be redone, but also taking into that into consideration the HVAC piece of that also. So we'll have an electrical, we'll have an HVAC, and then of course the welding coming in on that.
So the project manager, that was written into the grant?
We had it originally written into the grant. Luckily for us, this grant is pretty flexible as long as you stay within the scope. So you can go back to them and say, we think this is gonna work better for us, and we'd like to dump that 5% or whatever we allocated to that project management back into the electrical piece. Because I think that, honestly, I think that the ventilation and the electrical piece is gonna cost us more than what we had anticipated also.
Okay, I was just curious if it makes sense to backfill on the maintenance. Pay ourselves for the project manager.
Oh, yeah.
And backfill on the maintenance to have
Oh,
more
yeah.
capacity there
Yeah.
versus.
There's some admin costs that we can take out of there, so that's kind of already,
Yeah, we
in there.
built that into the grant when we wrote it.
and then the mentor piece, which is not really construction, but the mentor piece is getting organized as far as, I think,
I'm working on that end, and we're going to schedule the mentor meeting coming together with businesses and industry in the community in support of CTE in Lakeview High School, support of CTE in the community, and I met with the ESD, who's a part of the mentoring program. There's 2 sides of the mentoring program, there's the mentoring piece that currently occurs at DSD to help, identify kids, just kind of like a big brother, big sister program or something now. This mentoring piece is mentoring students in our CTE programs with, employers, business, etc. You have a lot of things. You face the 18-year-old requirement. This mentoring piece allows you, from an educational standpoint, to integrate, 15, 16, 17-year-olds with the business community. So the first meeting on that piece of the grant, Fred Smith, Jack Thompson, and I are going to get leaflets out and everything. It's going to be June 12th at the Elks. So we'll see to it that you're invited and be a part of that. We're really going to solicit business and have them there and really have them be a part of this whole experience. Sorry, I stole your thunder there.
So the other piece is the moving of the power pole. That's also written into that grant. I've been on the phone most of the day with Pacific Power. I finally got them convinced to at least come look at it, because the original time that they looked at it was pre-me. So it's been at least 3 years, but probably further back than that they've looked at it. And we've moved people within Pacific Power, so nobody has a clue what was done that time frame. So a gentleman named Ian and I have been going back and forth as to what we need to do to assess that power pole next to DMS that runs across. It's just running pretty low. That power line runs pretty low. So there will be some student at some point in time that gets on that fire escape and decides to hang off the power line or something, so it's pretty much a safety hazard, but it is written within this grant.
When we wrote that in the grant, about the power pole, that was, when EPA came down to visit, they wanted to see the famous power pole in the grant. We took them out there, and I really hadn't seen the power pole in a long time myself. It looks like a Christmas tree.
It's got a lot of stuff
lines,
hanging on it.
it's got lights, it's got this, it's got that. They said, my God, we can see what you mean by that power pole.
Check that out.
So anyway, so bottom line, we'll project manage out of house with this. New RFPs going out. I'm in the process of rewriting those for the electrical and the HVAC. Wanted to get with Pacific Power today as far as what we need with them to start that electrical piece, and then of course everything flows down the line. Any other questions on that CTE grant? There's quite a bit to it.
Do we still think that we're gonna get it all accomplished before school starts?
For the most part, we probably can get most of it done. It's a revamp. We've got most of the stuff cleaned out of there that we could. So your paint booth is already out and done away with. And that's where the small engine slab is going to go in. We've already purchased the small engines that need to go in there. So it's just basically that electrical piece. Once they get that extra amp put in there, we'll solve a lot of the problems. And that's not a huge, it's huge, but it's not gonna take months and months and months. It's basically, do we put in another panel? Do we, whatever the case may be. There will probably be some spillover within the start of the school year. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Any other questions? Okay. So we had some funds to purchase a pivot through ODE. Through ODE as well. April 30th, those bids were due. I got two companies that sent me 2 apiece, so I have 4 total bids. I sat down with Phil yesterday as far as the Ag Advisory Committee is concerned. We started picking them apart because you're in one spectrum to the next. And so what we've asked both gentlemen to do is narrow it down to what we specifically need, as far as sprinkler heads, as far as the drop-down sprinklers, just little things like that affects the price. And so both of them are rebidding essentially to fit the more specifics of that. I got the one back already today. The other guy that bid, I expected at any moment for him to get that back to us. Once we get those specifics down, then we can make a decision between the two gentlemen. One is out of Klamath and one is out of Burns, and so once we get there, we should be able to make that award fairly soon.
Are their prices similar?
They are, actually. It was just a matter of, and they're the same pivot as far as brand, so that's helpful. I looked at it, it looked Greek to me, so, but after, you got to look at
These are new pivots?
brand new pivots, yeah. So once you got to looking at it, they were both comparable as far as what they had on them, available, etc., all of that kind of stuff. We just decided to get additional, so for instance, one of the bids had the sprinkler, I guess, up on top. Well, that's not gonna work anywhere near for what we really need them to drop down in reality for here.
Yeah.
So we had them revamp it, take this off, take that off, but put this on, and they gave us basic and pretty much a Cadillac. And so obviously we need to meet in the middle somewhere, and then we can pick which one it'll award to. So that should be going in. I know that Christy has, in her budget for 18-19, has budgeted for, there's gonna have to be some piping that comes across that creek, and then also wiring that needs to happen in there from the pump to the pivot. So those things, that's gonna spill over after June 30th, but that was anticipated. Next on the docket, the DMS main floor, we've got roughly about 290,000. We're gonna run this one in-house. The priority on this one is going to be a set of bathrooms. This has already went out, you'll see it in the paper, actually, what's today? No, I apologize, it'll be next week when you see it in the paper. I've made some contacts, between here and Klamath as far as some contractors, and have already sent them, I think I've sent out 3 already that I've gotten a hold of, that were interested in looking at it and maybe making a bid on that. We'll run this one in-house. This one's fairly simple as far as what we're asking for. Once we get through restrooms at the main floor of DMS, whatever funds we have left over, we'll go finish something in the main floor, just depending on where those restrooms fall out at. We had an original bid of about $100 grand. You know, we might have been asking for a Cadillac deal too, you know. I think there was a lot of revamping, so that has went out. May 25th is a mandatory pre-bid, so if they want to bid on it, they need to be at that meeting on May 25th. And then I have June 8th as the final deadline and awards soon right after that. The last deal is the seismic, which project manager, we will have to have a project manager for that. There is no way that we can get that one done in-house. So that project manager should be out by the 25th of May for solicitation. And I think that is all of our projects that we have going on. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Let's add a couple more.
Oh wait, no, I did. No. I did miss the tech grant. So that the assessment has been done. They were here in April, spent the weekend here, went through all of our buildings. So what they do now is they'll sit and compile all of those buildings, including Union, the whole 9 yards. They'll compile that. My deadline for them was August. To get that back to us, and what they'll do is they will report back directly to you guys as far as what kind of shape we're looking, what they feel probably should be a priority, and then we can move from there on that.
It's gonna be spendy.
It's gonna be very spendy. I can tell you right now, they about cried over the roof at ABA.
Over the gym or over the
The whole
classrooms?
thing,
The whole building.
the whole building at ABA.
Worse than the high school gym.
No, they just mentioned the ABA. I was afraid to ask anymore.
Okay.
So much for buses.
I met up with them on that Saturday, and Joe Hamilton was there. Joe Hamilton made some comments about the other roofs too, so anyway. I think
Not
it's gonna
good.
be a pretty hefty price tag, yeah. But I think, you know, the bond picture, we talked about it before, and I went to a state meeting on April 19th. I talked to a number of superintendents up there, and it's been kind of a mixed bag across the state. You know, I talked to the superintendent from Vail, and Vail was, you know, somewhat similar to us. They passed a bond in Vail. And my colleague in Harrisburg, next week on the 15th, Harrisburg is kind of our same size. He's got a bond up too, and I'm gonna be anxious to hear the news from him. I'm kind of picking their brain on what their strategies were, what their campaigns looked like, and things like that. So, anyway, I've had some interesting conversations with other districts.
All right. Moving on, let's go to 9, old business.
I have none.
By the way, thanks, Janet. Good report.
Oh, sure.
10, new business.
Lonnie.
So you guys have a memo, I just noticed that I have a typo mistake in it. So I have 6 special ed students who qualified for extended school year for this summer. and so their current IEP support this request. I'm requesting for one certified person to provide services to the 6 students here in Lakeview. It's Will Hicks, is who I'm requesting. He taught extended school year for us last year. He'll teach it again for, the 6 students with 6 weeks, 4 days, and about 4 hours each day, in some, probably about 2 small groups.
Any discussion?
I move to approve the 2017-18 extended school year recommendation as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2017-18 extended school year recommendation as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the amendment of item 11.1. All policy updates are approved with the exception of policy GBH/GECAC. Superintendent will communicate concerns to SBA and present this policy to the board at the next scheduled board meeting.
Second.
If you don't know. What you got?
Okay, it's been moved and approved to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to 11.1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Announcements.
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Next board meeting agenda items.
Well, next board meeting will be work session, May 23rd. We're diligently working on all these items as we speak. District goals, the Superintendent Advisory Committee, 3 meetings, and Kevin's hammered out, put the finishing touches on them, and have them for your review and opinion and so on. The handbooks, we've got a very diligent handbook committee at Lakeview High School. We're going into meeting 5 tomorrow, so we're really going through and tearing into that thing and updating it. And so that'll be worth a lot of discussion that night too. Have the staff handbook there. Susan's about got her handbooks done, so I think it's going to be time very well spent. And I've heard Jeff's recommendation. I'm going to invite Mike Taylor and Will Behan. He's the new chief of police here to talk about the arming in schools. So anyway, so that's what's up for the work session. 5:30 p.m.
Would there be 10 minutes to discuss whether we want to change times of our meetings?
Yeah, I think we can build that in.
Okay.
You want to add that to the list?
Please don't look over any, I'm up for earlier. Is that what you're saying?
And for earlier.
No, I just had discussion. I didn't know.
Not an action, I have discussion. Yeah, that's great. Let's get it in there, so.
Okay.
And don't forget, May 22nd is the first budget meeting. That's early, isn't it? It's like
Second
at
and
6.
24th,
It's
right?
at 6. At 6, not early enough.
26th.
And May 24th will be our second meeting.
When's the ESD budget one?
I got an
21st.
email, let's see.
What are the times?
Mine are 6.
6. To like
Here?
9. Yeah.
They're all here, correct?
Here.
6 o'clock.
And you said 24th was the second one?
Yep.
So we have a meeting on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th?
Yep.
I can't make the 24th.
And if you're on the ESD budget, is it you, Corey, or you on the ESD?
I think I am.
That's on the 21st, so.
Originally, her ESD one was on the 22nd. We had to negotiate.
I was gonna say, after the last 2 years, that
This
sounded
is-
familiar back to back.
Looks like a brutal week.
It is.
It's a brutal week now, but.
Okay.
EST really was this rate too.
That's all I have.
So really dinner in like 3
Okay.
minutes.
Adjournment.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting's adjourned.